Hey everyone, so today we'll discuss one of the most common Java 8 interview question that I recently got asked in an interview. So if you're completely new to Java 8, you can refer to my video on Java 8 crash course. So this is second part of the series on Java 8 interview questions. So if you have missed the part 1, you can check that out also. I've linked both the videos in the description below. So this could be one of the simplest questions that the interviewer can ask you, that if you have a map of key value as string and integer, and what would be the sum of all the values in a map. So there are a lot of approaches where you can tackle this question. So the first one is obviously using the Java 7 approach, and you can just iterate it and you can find the sum. Other is also a Java 8 approach using for each, and you can use a for each in a map that has by consumer, and you can iterate that and find the sum. But there are more optimal solution for that, for this kind of problem, and interview wants those optimal solution. So one of them is to use a reduce function, which is part of Java 8. I've covered reduce function in my Java 8 crash course, and you can check that out. So let's see what we can do that. So here's a map that has key as string and value as some integer, and I've added some values. So there are a few methods which we can access either keys or the values of a map. So one is the key set that would return the key, and other one is values. So we're interested with this method. So it would return a collection of integer. So what we could do is stream, and now we can use the reduce method. So the reduce method has two options. So we can choose either of these two options. So the first one accepts a binary operator. So that is, it accepts two arguments. So it should be integer since we are streaming on integer. So let's say this first argument is I and second is j. And the return type should also be in integer. So it's kind of like a by function, but with similar arguments. So we want I plus j. That's it. It's done. So it would return an optional. So if you don't want an optional, you can just simply add 0, and that would return an integer. So why is that? Because the reduce method has multiple signatures. So this is one of the reduce method. So it would return that integer. So it accepts an identity. Here in this case it's 0. So 0 is basically the start value. So it would give the sum of all the integer, as well as it would add 0 before starting. So let's print that out real quick. So that's it. It's giving you 11. Suppose you want to add 10 into this. So you can add 10 like that, and this would give you 21. So as I said, reduce has various overloaded methods. So let me show you both of them. So this is the first one that we use, that accepts only binary operator. So it will return optional integer. And the second one receives an identity. So this is some initial integer value that would be added into our stream. So I've explained how reduce method works in my previous tutorial. You can check that out, and that would be more helpful if you're not familiar with this method. So you can reduce this lambda expression, and you can add your method references. So what these are is basically you can add integer, and you have a method called sum. So that would return the sum of both the integer. So you can use this directly and replace it with this. That's it. So let's see how these method references work. So you know, this sum method will accept two arguments, int a and b, and by default what the compiler looks at is that this reduce method contains a lambda expression. So the input argument of this lambda expression should match with the input argument of the sum method. So what would happen is this I and j will go to this method, and the sum would be returned to that, and that would be something that this would be returned from this lambda. So one other thing you could use is this method called mapToInt, which returns an int stream, and that has a direct method called sum, which you can call and get a sum of integer. So let's code that. So we'll use values, a stream. So now we have a stream of integer, and now we'll use that map function, mapToInt, and this mapToInt has toInt function as an interface for lambda expression. So what that is, so it would accept an integer or whatever you're streaming upon. So currently we're streaming on an integer, so this would be I or some integer, and the return type would an integer. So we do not want to change it to anything, so we will give that I. So this would be transformed to an integer, which it obviously is. So this would give an in stream as an interface. So this interface has certain method, and we'll be using one of the method called sum. So now we have an in stream, and now we can use the sum method. So here you go. So this is kind of like a transformation function. So we'll have an input as something we are streaming upon, and we'll be returning an integer. So we'll be just giving it back like that. So let's say we transform it to 10. So every element of that stream would be transformed to 10. So now the int stream would contain every element as 10 instead of the elements which were there in the first place. So here you go. So now if you're aware of method references, you can use that, and you can write that integer, and you have a method called value of, which takes in an input argument as integer, and it would return an integer. So in this case, it would take our lambda expression input as an input argument of this function, and whatever it returning, that would be the return type of the lambda expression. Method referencing would look confusing in the beginning, but the more you use that in your work or in your projects, the more you'll get used to it. And same goes with all the features of Java 8. So if you're very new to Java 8, you can check out my crash course on Java 8. So I'll be posting more videos on this series of Java 8 interview questions, so you can refer to that playlist. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching. Bye.